board member or student board member, turn off your mic and your camera, just so that.
Hank, I'm just pushing go live.
Thank you. And assume, yep, we're live here or going live. Looks like Mike joined us now, Mike.
Oh, there's Mike.
Hello.
Hi. It's 6:30. Let's call to order. Julie, can you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Nancy Kupka,
Present.
Mike Davenport,
Here.
Dan Nicholas,
Here.
Terry Pavicic. Terry,
I'm
Terry,
muted.
you're on mute.
Sorry. I'm here.
thank you. Rick Pavanato,
Here.
Zoe Boyd,
Here.
thank you. Sam Bull,
Here.
thank you. Any other board members come in while I was? Okay, thank you.
Any others?
Okay, we have a quorum. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, God,
Visible with liberty and
and
justice.
justice for all. Amen. Okay, we'll start tonight. I need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the minutes of the December 14th, 2020 business meeting, the January 11th, 2021 workshop meeting, the January 11th, 2021 closed meeting, and the January 16th, 2021 special meeting with action item. The board members have had the minutes prior to this meeting for examination, and they'll be made public within 10 days of board approval.
So moved.
Is that Rick?
Second.
Rick and Terry?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Terry Pavicic,
Aye.
and Joanna. Okay.
I'm
Mike
here,
Davenport. I'm sorry,
Aye.
pardon me?
present,
Oh, Joanna. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
present.
Okay. Now
Aye.
we're voting on the minutes now. Were you here for that act? To hear the vote on the minutes?
No,
Okay.
Okay, do you want to remake the motion so that we can include Joanna and Sherelle then, please?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually, but go ahead.
The motion is for approval of the December 14th, 2020 business meeting minutes, the January 11th, 2021 workshop meeting minutes, the January 11th, 2021 closed meeting minutes, and the January 16th, 2021 special meeting with action item.
So moved.
By Rick and
Second.
second by Terry.
And Terry, thank you very much. And then Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Terry Pavicic,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
You're mute.
no, I'm not.
So Joanna, to vote on the minutes, please?
Aye,
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Mike
yes.
Davenport,
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. We'll move on to the reception of visitors. This meeting agenda includes 2 opportunities for comments from the audience. The first is intended for audience members to address the board about any agenda item on which the board will vote. Is there anybody who's going to address the board?
We have nobody in the room.
Okay, do we
and
have any comments?
We do, but neither of them are about items that are action items.
Okay. So we'll move on to the recommendations and reports of the superintendent. You want to start with return to in-person learning.
Yep, and I just want to remind everybody, we remain in a virtual meeting mode, as when this meeting was scheduled, we were in tier 2. And
Mhm.
under those requirements, meetings can be no larger than 10 people. So the board has chosen to go remote so that we could have space for visitors should they wish to attend. We don't have anybody in the room, and hopefully we'll be moving out of tier 2 soon and can resume meetings in person. So returning to in-person learning for our students, just a few quick updates. We were in person all last week. We'll return this week after tomorrow's snow day, although we'll continue our regular schedule tomorrow virtually. So it'll just be the full remote schedule tomorrow, and then hopefully this weather will move through. We'll be back on Wednesday. You can see here, here is our trend of positivity rate since the beginning of the year. And you can see we after last week, dropped below that 8% and have been falling since. And we're now down to 6.5% on our positivity rate. We had our normal debrief meeting this morning. We have been able to follow all of our safety measures. We've been keeping up with all of our tracking of illness and following up on illness, and a close contact communication has all gone well. Transportation has gone well. Everything so far for all of the days that we've been in person is working. So we look forward to getting back to there on Wednesday. Next slide, Rob. Activities in athletics, now that we moved into tier 2, are back up and running. We even had some sports and activities occurring today after school. And then once we move into phase 4, all sports will be allowed. And there's specific IHSA and IDPH guidelines on how those operate. We know that there's a meeting on Wednesday from IHSA, and they'll release schedules for the sports that are in place. And then they've also said that all sports that are not in season can have unlimited contact days, which are days to come together and practice and work on skills, all underneath those guidelines. We look to get those contact days up and going. However, we really need to get the winter sports scheduled first, the ones that are in season, make sure that they have facilities to work in. And then based on what space we have left in the facilities, following all of the safety guidelines, we'll start to add in contact days as we can. But, you know, once again, those winter sports that are in season will have the first priority for every bit of space and time that we have. Also, we have activities that are up and going, things like Winter Guard, and we're working on some plays and speech team and chess and those kinds of things. And each one of those activities or athletics that get up and running in person, each one of those develops a safety plan. Those safety plans are sent over to the principals. Ed and Janice review them. The three of us compare them and evaluate them. Ultimately, once they meet, we're sure that they meet all of the safety guidelines. We approve them and then allow students to return for those in-person activities. So that's kind of what we've been working on. The only question that we have is, do we need to have a special standing board meeting to discuss metrics and in-person learning? I know that was a question Nancy asked to bring to the table and kind of just discuss with board members tonight. The administration's not recommending that at this time. I think that, you know, the metrics are trending in the right way. We've been successful returning students to school. You know, if that should turn around or change in any way, absolutely, I'd be happy to pull the board together and discuss what's going on. But I think as long as we're functioning in the hybrid model and conditions aren't changing, I don't see a reason for us to need to get together and discuss. But if the board would like us to do that, I'm happy to do that.
Rick, I know you originally proposed this, and I would just remind everybody that while we're doing great, there are many models that say we're going to escalate, we're going to re-escalate with the variance. So
I think as long as we know the numbers are going to be under 10, I don't see a need for a meeting. But when the numbers become 10 or above, I think we should meet, because maybe if it's 10.1, 10.2, maybe there are a few members that would say, hey, I'm willing to risk it.
I'm happy to do that. You know, if we see it start to climb, absolutely.
I tend to agree with you, Rick. I would kind of watch the number more at like 975 or you know, closer to 10, and then we can evaluate at that point and talk about it, because that gives us a little bit of a leeway before it hits 10. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but.
Well, I agree with Terry. I'd like to see maybe a meeting convened around maybe 9.5%. I think with this new variant, it could kind of come on us real suddenly. And I wouldn't want to wait to 10, and I can't even imagine going to 10.1 or 10.2.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Terry and Joanne. We have set that bar so we can, as we approach it, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it sounds like people would like to, we'll call a meeting if we get to 9.5.
Yeah, that's fine.
9.75, yeah.
Fine.
And then the next question is, when will that meeting occur? I think Hank, you had suggested Monday nights.
Oh, well, that was when we had the metrics coming on Monday, but they're coming on
Right.
Friday now. So, I mean, it could be at
Just
any,
do Saturday morning.
we could do a Saturday morning again if that works for everybody.
Well, if
We
you're
just,
making,
we just don't need an hour presentation on the numbers. We can just debate and discuss.
Yeah,
if you're making decisions on Friday, does it make sense to have the meeting Thursday night? You know, if we're reaching 9.5 and you have to make a decision at 3 on Friday, we should probably meet the day before. You have to make that decision.
Sounds good.
I agree
Yeah.
with you.
yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Nancy, if we're projecting that way early in the week, you and I can touch base and then call a special meeting.
Okay.
Because
My only
it's-
limitation is I work in the evenings, so I will try to be there. I beg, borrow, and steal to make the regularly scheduled meetings, but just so you know, I'm not blowing you off if I don't show up.
Okay, and maybe we could consider, unless it's too late, because maybe staff and Dr. Thiele, you guys can get a chance to go home and take it from there and not sit in the office, provided that it happens. I'm okay with having a 7:30 meeting, as long as, if we're not gonna go through all the metrics, you know, and we could commit to getting done within an hour, I think it's possible. Then potentially let's look at, you know, a later time. I'm open to that.
That would be very helpful.
Agenda that.
Because at this point, it would be a Zoom meeting anyway.
Right. It would be, if we're, the numbers are that high, it'd be a Zoom, so it doesn't really matter. 7:30, 6:30, whatever.
Yeah.
Just
And sometimes,
giving people opportunity. Nancy mentioned that she works later. I would prefer that because I'm working later too at some.
Yeah.
So let's give everybody, if it's an extra meeting and everybody's okay with it, we can push it back a little bit, commit to getting done within a period of time and call it a day.
yeah, I agree.
If we start to get it back up into that range, I'll make sure that Nancy and I connect and call a special meeting for
Okay.
Thursday evening.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
get home, so.
The only thing is we have to have somebody, even if we're in tier 2, we have to have somebody there because it's a public meeting.
Either.
Oh.
That, yeah.
Oh.
But
That-
I get, because I know you've got your business, you know, everybody's working. So fortunately, everybody's working. So yeah, I
Yeah.
know it's a problem.
Okay. Well, if that goes back earlier, I mean, I'm okay with that. I was trying to be.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind. But by the regulation, the superintendent has to be present on site. So that's fine.
Oh, okay.
I don't mind being here for that. That's what I'm here for. So.
Well, Hank, we think you should be with your family too, just like we do.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I thought it was gonna be helpful to everybody,
24.
but if it's not, I'm okay.
I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all. All right. I think that's all that I had for return. Oh, Dan has.
So a different topic before we move on. On the presentation, I know Illinois announced today Region 8's moving to Tier 1. Does that change anything with the sports or with our, I just want to know the implications of Tier 1.
No, there's really no difference between, for us, Tier 1 or Tier 2. It's when we exit the tier mitigations. That's the really only difference between Tier 1 and Phase 4 is that all the sports are able to be played, which really puts basketball back into the mix once we move to Phase 4. That's really the key difference right now is basketball. And once we move out of the tier mitigations, then basketball can return.
And I also know, isn't Tier 1 groups of 25 or under can meet? Does that mean that we would be back in person as a board when moving to Tier 1 tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah. If we move to Tier 1, then we could come back and hold a board meeting because the whole board could fit and we could still host some visitors. So yes, that does change for us as well as a board.
All right, sorry to backtrack you. I
No,
just
no.
wanted to check.
Questions, Dan, thank you.
Anything
All right,
else?
Anything else I can answer?
Move to saliva testing.
And I'm going to turn this over to Scott and Gina.
Gina, I think you're talking and you're on mute. Okay, sorry, having trouble there. So tonight we're going to talk about saliva screening or saliva testing and how we would like to move forward with saliva screening in District 99. So Scott and I will be presenting all of the information, and then we'll open it up for questions. So tonight we'll talk about District 99 mitigation measures and how saliva testing would complement that. We'll also talk about how we have collaborated with Safeguard Surveillance, a company that offers saliva testing, and that includes in terms of process and cost, the timeline, supplies, and how we would get this off and running. And then of course, we will take whatever questions the board has. Saliva testing will not replace any of the measures we have put into place thus far, but rather complement it. So we still need to have students and staff socially distant. We still need to have everyone wearing personal protective equipment, masks and shields and whatnot. But again, saliva testing would be another factor that would help us with transmission or potential transmission of COVID. So Safeguard Surveillance LLC would provide the service to the district. It is a process that screens for a viral load or a significant viral load, as they would say. And this process was adapted by a molecular virologist by the name of Dr. Ed Campbell and started using it in his school district. There are a lot of districts now in our surrounding area that are using saliva testing as one of their mitigation factors and are going with Safeguard Surveillance as well.
So the purpose of the screening or surveillance is to do some early identification. And so really it's looking at asymptomatic students, not those that are coming down that are in person that are showing signs of symptoms, but really looking for those asymptomatic students so that we can reduce the transmission, drive down rates in the community. And then it is important to note that the surveillance is non-diagnostic. So we are not getting a positive COVID or negative result from it. And like Gina mentioned, we're getting a significant viral finding. And then we're going to be making recommendations to the families to, go contact their doctors and get the PCR test. And then before we go to the next slide, it's important to note that Dr. Thiele mentioned in the December board meeting that we were also looking at the Abbott Binax Now test, which is the nasal swab, and you get results in 15 minutes. So we had to go through a process of getting the CLIA waiver certificate, which we did get at the end of last week. So we're still moving with that as well. So I thought it was important to at least point that out, that the Abbott Binax Now does give you a positive or negative for COVID. But I just wanted to share with you that we did get approved. And so we're moving through those steps as well to have that as another mitigating factor. And so if we do find a viral finding in our student population, we will go through the process of, isolation, quarantine, and contact tracing. So we're going to take the findings as kind of a positive COVID result, and we're going to go through those steps because that way we'll be able to keep students and staff safe. And like Gina mentioned, and it's I think just important to mention this I think throughout the time whenever you're doing the surveillance with the saliva, is that it does not take the place of social distancing or wearing the right PPE. So we still need to be diligent in our efforts with that. So just to kind of take you through a little bit of the workflow, steps 1 and 2 are really things that are kind of happening, would happen this week and part of next week. And so really what I wanted to highlight is kind of the general process that would take place. So if you look at step 3, that's where students would bring the saliva sample to school. and then we would deliver it to the lab. So we are not running these tests in-house. This is all done out of house. So we deliver the results to the lab would run the tests. They would provide us the results back. If there's a significant finding for students through a barcode system, so they do not have any information about our students. It's all anonymous to them. And then they notify us, we notify the individuals that have that viral finding, and then we begin our contact tracing, isolation, quarantine, things like that. So our plan is to screen in-person students weekly, and that's something that we're looking as a kind of a mandatory process to be able to have a health and safety environment. We'll be offering it to teachers and staff on a weekly basis as well. And like I mentioned before, we'll approximately get the results in about 24 hours from the samples being dropped off. And then we're looking at the screening to go through the entire school year. Obviously, we're looking to start this in mid to late February. And then we're also exploring summer options with this Safeguard company.
So the cost of the screening is $11 per sample, so $11 per student per week. We are estimating it between $500,000 and $600,000 for starting middle of February, basically, through the end of the school year. And that's really an estimate. We are looking at our numbers of current in-person students, but also we'll be factoring in students who are coming on campus for other things such as activities, athletics, behind the wheel instruction, and require them also to submit a saliva sample. We are planning to use grant funds to cover the costs. We will be receiving a second allocation through the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. It's referred to as ESSER 2, and we are planning to use those funds to pay for the screening. So our timeline is tentative at this point because, of course, every step hinges pretty much on the previous week. So obviously this week, we're bringing it to the board for approval. We plan to send out some information to, if approved, send out some information to families, work on our student consent forms, and then do a pilot screening with the voluntary administrators who are willing to submit a sample this week. We'll send it to the lab to make sure that our process is working, the barcodes work, and it's reading okay. Assuming that that all works, next week we would be packaging the screening packets, which include vials and straws and envelopes, lots of materials for the students to receive. So next week we will be creating those screening packets. The following week, those packets would be distributed to students. And then the week after that, the week of February 15th, we would begin student and staff screening. So it basically will take a few weeks for us to get up and running. Again, it's a tentative schedule because each step sort of hinges on the previous step or the previous week. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Gina, I'm wondering two things. One, kind of help me understand what a significant finding is and how that differs from a positive result. And then I understand that, from the presentation here that significant finding is being treated as a positive result. I'm wondering how we'll report it.
So it's not a diagnostic test. It's not a COVID test. However, the company has shown very, very positive results, I guess you would say, between students that have a significant viral finding and then have tested positive for COVID. But it's not a diagnostic test. It will, however, alert the student and the family that they should quarantine and go and get tested. So it's not a diagnostic test in that way.
So if you got this result, it means you've probably got something. May not be COVID necessarily, but there's some virus at work there.
Yes.
That's okay.
Well, and I think if I can jump in, I think, they are looking for obviously the COVID virus. That's what the viral load and the chemicals that they're using when they're running the test. It's an RT lamp test. And then so, I mean, I would say that what they've explained to us is that they haven't had many false positives or negatives in terms of when they find a viral load and families have gone to get tested, they have found that there has been COVID positive. So it to us feels like then a good process to catch asymptomatic students. Because right now we have students obviously coming into school, they're asymptomatic. We're getting the symptomatic ones to come down to our quarantine room, but we're not catching students that may have, and so it's kind of working on the transmission rate is really what it's doing.
And when you say reporting it, we're reporting it to the family, right? So if a student comes back with a viral finding, we're contacting the family.
What I was actually thinking about is as we go forward and we develop our own metrics, how this information will factor into that. If it's not, in fact, a positive result, but it's sounding to me like it's pretty much is, that's all I'm asking is how we're going to factor that into our metrics. And it seems like we should know how we're going to do that now versus later, so that no one's accusing us of trying to play with numbers,
Yeah, I mean, it's the same, but it's not the same. It's the same concept, but it's not the same testing or the same CDC approved pathway to determine positivity. So, it isn't the same set of tests, isn't the same set of metrics. So to compare it to a positivity rate out there for the official testing would not be the right vocabulary or description to use, but it's an equivalent line of thinking as to how that works.
I agree.
To other schools that are going this pathway and what they're looking at for their metrics. Most are in the process of getting it up and getting it started, establishing that it works, that it's reliable, which schools are finding that that's the case, that have gotten started on it. And then after it's in place, evaluating how that should factor into their metrics once it gets there. Everybody I have talked to so far is not immediately making a change in their metrics until they know it's established and reliable.
Well, I think too, we said that if the student has that, or teacher, anybody who gets this test has a significant result or a significant finding, their next step is actually to take that PCR test, right? So that would then when that generated the result, we would use that in the metric. So
right.
It's kind of that's what I thought made sense, and that's what I expected.
Yep.
To get it
yeah,
out.
there's two things. One, we would exclude them, right? We'd keep them out of school for that quarantine exclusionary period. And during that time, we would encourage them to go get tested with the official PCR test.
So I'm sorry, can I just build on something on Mike's point? So when we were talking last week about, we may have talked about it at the meeting, or I may have talked to Hank about this separately, I don't remember. But when we talked about building an internal metric where we looked at our student population, so essentially my understanding of this test is that it is a PCR test, but it's essentially the same, but it's not being used as diagnoses, and it allows them to get around the whole CLIA question, which is why it's not used for diagnoses, but it's looking at the genetic material. So they would confirm it with another PCR test. We would not use this original test to figure out any internal metrics. We would only use a second test. Is that what you're saying?
No, some schools are using this as the indication of how prevalent the virus is in their schools. Yeah. So they're using this as a similar mindset of a positivity rate, although it's not. We need to be clear that it's not the same as the CDC or the health department or any of those positivity rates, but it would be the rate of students that are showing an increased viral load would be the appropriate way of saying it. And then the doctors do suggest some thresholds for that internal rate that we could consider, but I would like to bring that back with recommendations once we get this up and running. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with any of that yet.
So I have a question.
Can you hear me?
Okay. So if I understand correctly, this test will pick up anything, if it's a flu, if it's a infection, is it? Okay. Okay. Understood.
testing for COVID, yes.
Okay, because I thought we were saying, because I was thinking in that case, it will probably have a lot of people not in school, but it is simply a test for COVID. However, we're not using that to determine that the student has COVID. There is another test particularly that they have to go take to make the determination.
Right,
Okay.
for the official test. Yeah. I see
Okay,
Dan's question here. The actual PCR that Scott mentioned, when we have a waiver for now, when that starts, do we stop this testing so that we could use that for internal metrics? No, it's kind of interesting how that works. That test is intended not as a screening test, but when you believe somebody is ill is when you would use that Binax Now testing. So that's what we have to figure out. There's kind of these two pathways. The one that we're talking about tonight, the saliva-based one, is a surveillance like screening kind of proactive testing. The other the Binax Now PCR testing would be what you would then use after that to verify, and that would be like the official PCR test. We're just working down that pathway, so we don't have a lot of answers on that one yet. Just that we've finally gotten our CLIA waiver cleared, and now Scott's going to start working with the department, with the health, with our nurses and the health department to figure out what next steps might be there for an internal testing program to support the surveillance program.
But is Binax PCR? I thought Binax was an antigen test.
I think, no, you're right. The Binax.
Is an antigen
Yeah, I
test.
think it's an antigen test, but it's a 15-minute the nasal swab, and it does give you it's the rapid one. So
Right, point of care testing.
Yeah, so it will give you though. So we have to report that. That's where, like Hank mentioned, like our staff that will be giving that it can only be our nurses, and they have to go through a training through Abbott and through the Illinois Department of Health. So there's two different trainings that they have to go through, and then we have to sign up with the Illinois Department of Health because we have to report every single test, whether it's negative or positive. So it does give you a diagnosis. That's the difference between, but we don't, like Hank was mentioning, because we don't know how many kits we'll get for testing. It's not like we're going to have every student that comes down sick that would test, with the rapid test, because we might not have enough kits to do that. So we're still kind of working that out, but we wanted to mention it because we are moving forward in that. But I know it kind of gets a little blurry between the, the surveillance, saliva test and that rapid, Binax Now test.
my question is off to the other side of the financial side. It's this one is $11, the saliva test. Now the rapid test, as I'm calling it, that one, from what I understand, is much more expensive. Is that true?
Go ahead, Hank.
And the other part of the question, huh?
Go ahead, Terry, finish your question.
And the other part of it is I see that we have a grant thus far. Now, and then do we have a second grant that we've applied for to carry out that 600,000? Because that's a lot of money. And I don't want it to end up being like special education where the government, says they're going to pay X amount of dollars and then we get 10% of that.
Yeah, so we know we have about $1 million coming in additional federal funding to help offset COVID costs. And so that's what we would draw from for this 600,000, and for any costs that we have related to vaccinations would come from that allocation. We've also been led to believe that there will be another round of school funding from the new administration that is directly tailored to helping schools increase testing. But that one that's wishful thinking at this point. But we do know we have about $1 million in COVID relief funds coming, already allocated to us.
But we've spent a certain amount of that money already.
That was
haven't
the
we?
first round of funding. We have a second round of funding coming.
Which is the $1 million thing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I have a question too to add to that, Terry.
Let me finish answering Terry's, if she had a two-part question. Then the costs, this is the one that's being proposed tonight is $11 a cost. There's a similar product coming, which is the one that U of I uses. That's the shield testing. We're not recommending that one tonight. That one is $20 a test. And then the internal testing one, that Binax Now testing, that rapid test, is free. The health department provides those through the federal government, those tests, but they provide us a very limited number of those tests. We wouldn't have enough to test every student using those tests, nor is that what that test is intended for.
Right. That one's more of a definite, you've got COVID.
You are sick. Yeah, you are showing symptoms. So we're going to use that test on you, not as a screening test like the other one.
Where the $11 one is a generic kind of screening for
COVID.
Yes.
Yep.
And so we're recommending that they take the test at home and bring it to us. Is there a viability difference between the travel from home to the school? You know, like some tests, the validity goes way down a certain amount of time from, does that make sense?
Yes.
So
It does not make sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. It does
So
make
if you're asking if transporting it's an issue, right? Does it have to be refrigerated? Does there have to be anything special done to it? No. However, students cannot eat or drink before they
spit
get their sample. Okay. I know. Before they can give their sample. So that is a requirement of it, but it doesn't have to be refrigerated or any special, it'll come with, they'll have a vial and they'll put that vial in a little envelope and they'll bring it to school with them. So no special care in terms of the sample itself.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yeah, because sometimes things are time sensitive.
Right.
Sherelle, you had a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. We are the cost, the 500, 600K, is that just for this school year? Hopefully we won't be dealing with this next school year, but we'd incur another 500 or 600K for if we had to continue this. It's not indefinite, right? As far as we've paid for it, we can use it. The services is per school year. Okay.
It's actually per week. There's a weekly cost based on the number of tests. So that's why we have to give a range, because
we're
estimating the number of tests per week that we'll give for the remainder of the school year.
All right. When I was reading, I couldn't totally decide.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to drop on you guys, and typically we have several board meetings to discuss things like this, but as we know, we're in unprecedented times. So I want to make sure that all your questions are answered. Dan dropped one in the chat. If this is approved, can we qualify or clarify when we'd see a measurement plan that uses these test results as a metric for having kids in school? Our plan is that we would have all of that at the latest in time for our plan for the fourth quarter of the year. So we'd be looking middle of March. So, that'd give us about a month of results to evaluate how everything's going. And, so then we're probably about 3 weeks in, we have to be developing a recommendation to bring it to the board in March for approval for the fourth quarter of the year.
Any concerns about supply?
Dan, is when it would go into effect is what we're thinking. Go ahead, Mike.
I have a few questions. Go ahead.
I was asking about supply, just if we're pretty sure that we're not going to get into this and then find out we can't get any more of the tests. And, there's any issues, any concerns, with that?
Gina, you can speak to that.
So we were able to secure all the supplies that we need. And we have been doing a lot of research the last few days, but we have the supplies we need to get this up and started.
And the test itself, I mean, the company that we're looking to work with, they actually have the ability to provide all these tests.
Screening, yes. And they supply the vials, and they give those to us, and they are committing to being able to test anywhere between 800 to 1,000 samples per day.
So we would take in samples over the course of the week and then screen everybody over the course of that week, know how many students we need to exclude because of a high viral load over the course of that week before we head into the next week. So, that's kind of the timeline of how it would work. And we do it all over again the next week. Nancy, you had some questions?
Yeah, I have 3 questions and a comment, and I'm going to start with my comment because it goes along with Dan's comment. And that is, when we look at how we're going to use the use of internal metrics, we should not forget the fact, because it may not happen, but it may, that our internal metrics would go up when our community metrics remain low.
It's possible, yes.
So I'm just throwing that out there, that should be somewhere in our plan. I had 3 questions. We say if they have a positive viral load, that we're going to ask students to follow up with their own providers. Do we have funds set aside, or can we work with the Department of Health for students who are uninsured or can't afford a provider?
Yes, we have locations from the Dupage County Health Department that we can refer people to for no-cost testing. And that's part of our discussion. I don't want to guarantee it yet, but the conversation Scott and I have been having about the internal testing possibility would also be a long-range possibility of closing that gap.
Good. Okay. And then I've heard from other people I've talked to within the community and other superintendents that some schools have actually done testing in their community. Now, I'm not advocating that we do this. I'm just asking, are we thinking about doing this, where they've actually tested family members of students who have been symptomatic?
Yeah, at this point, I think we are taking the last slots available that the lab has for ramping up what they're doing with testing. So it would be unlikely that we'd be able to scale beyond what we're doing here.
Okay. And then just to be clear, if we have a student or a staff member who's symptomatic and they test negative, we would still isolate them, correct? We would still exclude them from school.
We would still follow the exclusionary guidelines that the IDPH has provided, and that's that whole flow chart that determines if it's a student, our nurse's office works through that with the student and the families. If it's a staff member, our HR department processes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I've talked to a lot of other school districts as well, and they're noticing a couple of trends. One, the amount of responses that they are getting with viral load are very low. And part of that is because people self-exclusion themselves. So they're not feeling well. So they choose not to come into school that week and bring in their sample because I could be sick. I'm not going to come to school. And then the school will find out that I'm sick. So it actually, schools are finding it's kind of creating a safer environment because people who aren't feeling well just aren't coming to school because they don't want to test positive, right? And when students do, or staff members do come in and test positive, a lot of times it's asymptomatic. They didn't have any signs that they were sick. And then what you're able to do is then exclude them from school for that quarantine period. And now they're not coming in contact with other people and causing it to spread. So that's really the 2 factors that they're seeing play together as they're implementing this testing.
Great.
All right, other questions? I know it's a big, expensive item to put on here. And I said, it's rare that I would bring anything like this to the board kind of in this time frame, but you know, it's the world that we're in and the speed at which we're working at. So it is a recommendation for action later in tonight's board meeting. And Gina, Scott, and I, and the rest of the administration are asking the board to approve it.
Any other questions? Okay, immunizations.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I informed the board that the Dupage ROE and the Dupage County Health Department asked high school superintendents to work with their partner elementary districts to develop a vaccination plan for their all the staff. So that would be, you know, kind of, if we think of District 99 as a system, it would be for all of our school employees and then all of our partner elementary school employees. We've also been in conversations with village officials to also bring into our public employees that are in Group 1B to do kind of a school and community wide for government officials, so police, park district, library, along with school employees, because they're working on a similar program in each of the municipalities. So we're just trying to pool our resources and work effectively as branches of the community. We've hit some bumps along the way and how this has been put together and rolled out. As you can imagine, none of us are experts in creating an immunization plan at this in any way, but especially at this scale. We've learned a great deal over the last couple of weeks, but we're at the point where we're chasing down several leads between health and wellness companies and pharmacies to try to put together a vaccination program. We believe that within the next week, we will be able to finalize with a provider to help us schedule, administer, follow up, do everything that we need to do in a vaccination program, and be able to, for this entire community, it's between 3,300 and 3,500 vaccinations that we would like to do over a 2-week period. We're getting really close on that, but I don't have a third party to bring the board tonight. So this is another weird one where I'm asking the board permission to find a third party to hire to administer the vaccines. We have about 1,100 employees and that includes bus drivers and subs and everything that we would be looking to get vaccinated in District 99. We expect the range of cost for that to be remember, it's 2 shots. So for the series to be between $25 and $50 for those shots. So we have a recommendation later on tonight for the board to approve that the administration could enter into an agreement with a third party. That agreement would be vetted by the board's attorneys, and the total cost of administering that program would be less than $50,000. Now, depending on who we go through, depends on the bucket of district finances that comes from. It could come from CARES money. It could be funneled through insurance, but we're self-insured. So it's still the same pot of money. One way or another, it would be $50,000 of district funds, whether they came from grant money or our regular budget, or whether it be from health insurance funds. One way or another, it would be paid for. This will allow us to be the most nimble moving forward over the next 7 to 10 days as we try to get this up and running. We administratively, we have a plan together to make this work on our sites. We just need to find the partner to come in and actually give the injections of the vaccine. We have a way set up where people they'd register online, they would show up, they'd be checked in, they'd go and wait to get their injection, they would go there and get vaccinated. And then there's a 15-minute observation period. It's about 20 to 30 minutes that they're here at the building, socially distanced through that entire period of time. And then they get their first vaccination. They come back 3 to 4 weeks later, go through it again, and then they'd be fully vaccinated. So we have a whole plan for it to work. We just need a partner to work with to actually do the vaccinations. So we're asking for approval tonight for, once we have that partner agreed upon between us and all of the elementary school districts, to just enter into the agreement with them, pending that the board's attorneys sign off on that agreement. And of course, I'll be sharing it with the board. Then we just don't have to have a special meeting to sign off on it.
Hank, what's Cook County doing? Because, I mean, what's DuPage County doing? Because I'm getting my shot on Friday. Cook County sent an email to all the teachers and with appointments and times, and you signed up. It's all done through Cook County.
Every county is different. So it's very different across the state. So
Well, what's DuPage, what do they have set up at the fairgrounds, or are they doing anything like that, or?
No, they've turned it over to us as superintendents to figure it out. So we're figuring it out, but we just need the resources to do it.
Same resources everybody's looking for.
Correct. And we have plenty of leads, and schools are figuring it out. It's just not something that we as educators were ever trained to do. But hey, we've done a lot of things this year that we've never been trained to do. So we're getting there, but it's a little crazy right now.
So in DuPage County, then they have not offered any plan at all to get teachers vaccinated.
Their plan is for superintendents to figure out a plan.
And they're not offering up any vaccines at all.
Well, they would be the ones providing the vaccines to the third party.
It's crazy because, like I said, I got an email on Friday night to say, hey, sign up for what day you want to take it next week. And I'm taking it this week. So, but that's
not how it's happening everywhere, Rick. It's different all over the place. I know in some of the suburban Cook County schools, especially northern and northwestern Cook, are setting up large vaccination sites in those areas.
Arlington Heights is, yeah.
They're kind of doing the same kind of thing that we're looking at doing here. I know that some school districts have partnered with Walgreens or Jewel Osco or those kinds of things, and they're either doing mass vaccination sites or they're making appointments at their local pharmacies. Other school districts, the health department is coming on site to their schools, in other counties around the state, and are just doing it at their school. It's just very different everywhere around the state. And I want to be careful and not trash, the DuPage County Health Department. They're working hard. And when you compare DuPage County to all of the other counties in the state, they by a percentage have vaccinated more of, their citizens than any other county. It's just their approach with schools is a little different than what we've seen in other places. Hey, we're happy to do the work. So we'll get it figured out and we'll get everybody vaccinated, and we'll get our whole community with us.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to the annual financial report and the quarterly financial report.
I'll turn this over to Mark.
There we go. Well, for the comprehensive annual financial report, we have John InPerson, a partner from the auditing firm, to comment to the board and give you have 3 letters of control letters or internal control letters, as well as CAFR. I know you have access to it electronically. He's aware that you don't have it in front of you unless you start to pull it up electronically. But I'd like to just let John make his report.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me this evening. I won't make it very long because I know it's a long night and you've got all sorts of other things going on. So I'm just going to go over a few highlights overall on the letters in particular that we provide you. One of them is referred to as the letter to the board, and that one really goes over sort of what our responsibilities are as far as the audit is concerned. It includes a section in there about future accounting pronouncements. The only one that's really going to be effective in the future is a new one that's going to require fiduciary activities to be reported with the educational fund. And that will be effective for next year. We got a year reprieve on that one that was supposed to be for this year, but due to COVID-19, the standard setting board delayed the implementation of several new accounting standards for another year. I can confirm that we were independent in all respects, that management was very cooperative. We performed the audit semi-on-site, semi-remote and hybrid. So, all in all, I think things worked out really well. And we issued our final report on December 14th of 2020. There isn't really much else in there. We are required to report if we have any uncorrected misstatements or any material corrected misstatements, and I'm happy to inform that we did not have any during the course of our audit, uncorrected or material corrected errors that we pushed through. The next letter that we have is what's referred to as our management letter or control deficiency letter. And that one really goes over any internal control matters or findings that we have as we go throughout our audit. It's broken up into three main sections. You could have material weaknesses, which are the most severe, and they could be material errors to the financial statements. Significant deficiencies, where there may be multiple controls that are lacking or failing, that results in adjustments that could be significant to the district. And just regular control deficiencies, which are minor items. If you have policies where signatures are required, dual signatures are required, and one may be missing, or certain support isn't provided, those are the lowest levels. We only had one control deficiency in the current year, and it's very, very minor. The data collection form that gets submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse is due within 30 days after the report is finalized, and it was submitted 4 days after that, so 34 days. Very minor. There's no real major consequence to it. Just a matter that we're required to report. We also put in other observations and recommendations that we may have. And we do have one item related to data security and technology risk that we communicate to all districts. There's nothing that we necessarily found as we went through our audit of the district, but we're letting districts be aware, and I'm sure they are, that the schemes out there these days, the phishing schemes and other schemes of where people are hacking data are getting more sophisticated all the time. So we're just sending a reminder to continually update your technology policies to ensure that you can prevent and detect any data security breaches. The financial statements themselves, again, I'm not going to go over in extensive detail. Your district did receive from the International Association of School Business Officials the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting, which is a high honor. That means that in their mind, the financial statements are very well presented and are deserving of that certificate. And overall, we were able to provide what's referred to as an unmodified audit report. And that's basically the highest level of assurance that an auditor can provide, which basically says that, in our opinion, we didn't find any material misstatements as we went through and audited the financial statements, and that they're fairly stated in all material respects. I guess with that, does anybody have any questions? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Thank you for your report. And congratulations again to our staff for once again having an outstanding audit.
Thank you, and thank you, Jonathan, for hooking up tonight with us. If there's no questions, we can move to the next line item, which is the quarterly financial report. I think we're going to start with the revenues, and this is really a really difficult year. It'll be interesting to see where we are after the next quarter. I think that's when we're going to have a lot of things coming into play. The first 6 months, really difficult start for the school year and a lot of changes. But overall, the biggest thing, which is right in the middle of the revenues collected, the bond proceeds that was collected in the working cash fund, that really has made a big difference in our total collections. Obviously, it's 97 million. It's $87 million in total. If that wasn't part of this, which would pretty much match up with the actual expenditures on the right side of 86.9 million. But going through them individually, property taxes are nearly 100%. It says 100%, but there's a small fraction less to still be collected. So those are coming in. Other local receipts down here, other local revenues are reduce the budget there quite a bit. I'm sorry, replacement taxes, but I should just go right in order here. Replacement taxes, we cut the budget quite a bit. As you can see, last year was over $1 million. This year it's $860,000. And so it's 50% collected, but 50% collected of a much lower budget. And that's what we think we're going to have a much lower year for replacement taxes this year, and very likely the next year or two after this. Interest income is the other really key thing here that's in strain right now. I mean, we're showing 1% of budget collected. We're going to fall pretty far short of this budget amount of $315,000 just because interest rates just have not moved. The Fed is keeping everything tight and low. Banks, we try and ask them to, give us CDs that are, place some investments, and they're all saying the money's cheaper from the Fed right now. So the money that they use for mortgages and loans, it gets cheaper than what they can get it from us. So it's going to stay low, we think, for the rest of the year. Food services is, you can see, is almost nothing, $3,000. They are going to pay us for all the lunches we've provided to the community. We will get reimbursement for those. We have not seen that yet, so that'll help perk that number up once that's all settled. Registration fees is in one final area here that we have to worry about, just because of the pandemic. Very likely we have a higher unemployment rate. We waited a little bit. We waited till October to send out the bills, and at that point, I think a lot of people were laid off at that time, and they haven't bothered to come in and give us apply for a waiver. But when we press them a little bit more, they do come in and do that. But we're going to see a drop in our registration fees this year. And I think this just reflects, what's going to happen out there. It looks like we have 2 million, but remember, we lowered the budget, and I don't think we're going to get much higher than where we are right now at $1.1 million. So it could be $500,000 short on that line item too. But we're going to work on that in the next quarter, trying to collect any of the fees that are out there to families that don't have a waiver. And if they do have a hardship or an issue like that, we encourage them to get the waiver or apply for it. Or if they still don't apply, or they don't think they'll qualify for that, we still try and take it over time in smaller payments for them rather than all in one piece. That's really the biggest story going through the revenues. If we get to the expenditures, there we go. Total expenditures are 44% spent compared to 46% last year. It's pretty close in most areas except for a couple. You can see that our salary and benefits together compared to last year, right in line. We not laid off people or anything like that during this section of time. We found work for them to do related to keeping our school open and doing the different things like serving the community the food and things like that. So we've been able to keep everybody busy doing things that are important to the district. Purchase services are a bit down, quite a bit down, $2 million compared to last year. But those are down. Primarily, we're not running buses. We're not running cafeteria, a lot of our big purchase services. And we are running buses now, but hadn't for quite some time. And it was on a limited basis. It wasn't 5 days a week. So that's some of the expenditures that are down. We will see some bigger fees for transportation because when we go to the double afternoon hybrid, we actually are doing double runs. The morning coming and going and the afternoon coming and going. And so we're going to be catching up some of those expenditures in the next 2 quarters. Supplies are right in line pretty much. I think a bigger area is capital outlay, where we thought we'd come in a little bit lower, but we did have a lot of tech equipment that was needed for us to go to the remote and to the hybrid, the remote methods. So our tech expenditures for capital outlay are just a little bit higher than budget in that line item. But overall, I think we'll still fit into the budget by the end of the year. But this year compared to last year is up a couple $100,000. And really, tuition is a bright thing right now. I guess that's one way to say it, probably the wrong way to say it. But there's been fewer kids in tuition I related to the COVID, that there's fewer being placed, and these are high risk, many times kids. So they probably aren't, parents are making that decision not to bring them out and put them in with other kids in some of the settings. So our tuition is down just slightly this year compared to last year. Well, we anticipated it going up significantly. So right now, that's from a budget perspective, that's positive for us. Next chart is fund balances. You can see, well, one thing we did this year, Jerry and I talked a little bit about the health benefit account and how it impacts our budget. And we're going to start including that in with the total operating fund budget. Rather than leaving it out, and when we make some of our decisions, it actually is a factor. The one problem with it is that it has a seasonality to it. The withholdings for all the insurance are taken over a shorter period of time and not over the summer. So it comes in sooner, and then over the summer the balances drop. And so that's kind of why we've been setting it aside, but it's a key part of our operating fund overall. And overall, we're running just about in line where we thought we should be for this time compared to the prior year. Don't know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to address them now. I guess the key thing is that's carrying us through is we did issue the bonds for $10 million in October, in the last quarter. That's what's right now giving us some kind of protection on the reserve level that we have. But we do expect to end up with a negative balance this year, although you did hear we did get at least an allocation of over $300,000. I think it's $330,000 that we already have. And they've agreed, well, they should allocated 1.1 million to us, but the state gets 10%. We're pretty sure they're going to shave off their 10%. So we should get somewhere near $1 million if they fund it as they've discussed it to Illinois schools. So that may help quite a bit with these big, unexpected, and unusual expenditures that we're talking about tonight, but the saliva testing and the vaccinations. So we are, and then the rest of it doesn't have to be spent all in 1 year, it can be spent over, I think it's 2 to 3 years. And part of it is going to be learning recovery. That's the focus. And we know that the best thing we can do is get the kids in front of our teachers as quickly as possible. And that's why we're taking these steps for the vaccines and the saliva testing, just to try and get control of our part of it as much as we can.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark or the administration?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Hearing no questions, can we move to litigation against Jewel?
This was discussed with the board in closed session earlier. Rod, if you go to the next slide. The administration is recommending tonight that the board take action to join a class action lawsuit against Jewel Laboratories. This seeks to reimburse us or compensate us for all of the expenses or some of the expenses that we have incurred. We have additional staff that we have on place that have responded strongly to the vaping epidemic. We were one of the first schools in the Chicagoland area, maybe in the country, to have a comprehensive approach to responding to this and informing our parents about the dangers of it and our students about the dangers of it. So we have definitely invested time and resources in responding to this. This is a contingency fee case. There's no upfront cost to the district. The attorneys would only be paid through a portion of monetary recovery for the district. This is an action item later in the meeting, and we recommend that the board approve to signing onto this litigation. Any questions?
Hearing none, 299.
Yeah, the next couple of items are returning from the last meeting. This is the last opportunity for board members to ask any questions that they have about these items, and the administration is here to answer any questions you may have. The first item on the agenda related, coming back and then later showing up for action, is the T99 build out. So any questions that board members had from the last meeting to this one that we could answer?
Hearing none. Summer school recommendations and then the calendar.
So here are the recommendations from last time we met. Any questions on these? These once again show up for action later tonight.
Hearing none, the calendar.
Summer school calendar is the same calendar, similar type of calendar that we have had for the past, I think, 4 or 5 years. So we're just recommending keeping that same calendar for this school year or this summer.
Questions? And Rick, we're not losing sight of your concern. Master facility plan.
Not a lot of changes since the last time we met. I just
Thank
grabbed a
you.
couple.
That's why I'm not going to vote no.
Thank you, Rick. Just a couple of screen grabs I grabbed from our cameras. Once again, a plug that you can go on our website and see 360-degree cameras of the master facility plan project. This is upper deck of the South High Auditorium. You can see we're starting to put seats in, and those are going into place. This is going to be an incredible space. And then I have one of the North High Commons. This is an angle I don't think I've shown you yet. This is back kind of by the main staircase. This would be the far back corner of the Commons looking out towards the south lot. So you can kind of see that 3 stories of glass that show up. You can see some of that light coming in through the opening at the top of the roof. But that gives you kind of we've been looking at it most of the time from the other side looking back. So this gives you a different angle of that Commons looking the other way. You can start to see the carve out there. Bottom left-hand corner, you see those little black boxes. Those are some of the bump outs that are going to show up around the windows that are there. And over on the right side, you can kind of, you can see the new windows showing up there by the lifts. You can see the tall kind of archway where we've replaced those old windows with the new modern looking windows. Those are all being installed. So plenty of progress going on at both sides of the town, but it's really encapsulated inside of those projects, inside the Commons at both buildings and the auditorium at South.
Any questions? Have we had any Freedom of Information requests?
We have, and they're all posted online as well as their responses.
Great. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does any member of the board wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Okay, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes a personnel report, appointment administration, appointment certified, leave of absence certified, leave of absence classified, appointments classified, B, the personnel report, retirement certified, resignations classified, C, the personnel report, termination classified, D, the financial pages, E, the amended 2021 district calendar, F, the 2021 summer sports camp fees, and G, the review of closed session minutes and verbatim recordings.
So moved.
So moved.
Rick and Terry?
Rick was
Thank
first,
you.
Terry was second.
Thank you. Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the consent agenda carries. Next, we'll move to recommendations for action.
Before we move to recommendations for action, we are tonight by Courtney with Courtney Dement, who you just approved as the next principal at North High. When Janice retires at the end of the year, we're actually going to let her retire. And we're very excited to have Courtney as a member of our team. She is well regarded in the Dupage area as a leader amongst principals and assistant principals. And she is going to be a great asset to our team moving forward. And I know she and Janice have already started to connect. By approving Courtney tonight, we have a very long transition period, which should help set us up to be successful. So Courtney is here. She can wave and say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Your staff and community has been amazing. And even through formats like this on Zoom, I can really tell how kind and nice everyone is. And throughout the whole process, it's been really great. And everyone is so proud of Downers North. And I have big shoes to fill with Janice. So I'm really excited. And just a little hi, I know my family is watching. My boys wanted to join the Zoom, but I told them they had to put shirts on, and so they said no. So, but I definitely could not be here without the support of my family. And I'm pretty sure my mom is watching and my parents are watching. And this is payback for all the board meetings that I've gone to see her be the principal and superintendent also. So she got to watch me this time. So thank you, everybody. And I really appreciate it and really, really look forward to working with all of you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, great to have you. Oh,
Janice is going to start setting up some times where, we can do some virtual meets and greets and people can start to get to know Courtney. We'll do an official announcement very soon. Jill has one set to go out to the District 99 community welcoming Courtney. So welcome.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
I also would be remiss in not mentioning also that Kristen Borman is joining our leadership team again. She was on our team administrator for a while and then took a step back to be a social worker for us. I don't know if that's back, but a step over to do a different job for us a while. And now with Vince Walsh-Rock retiring at the end of the year, Kristen Borman is going to be the department chair for CSSS at South High. So that was approved tonight as well. And we're very excited to add Kristen back to our leadership team. Although we'll be sad.
Very good. Very good.
Anything else?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move into the recommendations for action. The first thing we need is a motion for the Board of Education to approve entering into a contract with Safeguard Surveillance LLC for an amount no greater than $600,000 to provide saliva surveillance screening through the end of the school year, and that the administration be approved to sign and otherwise execute any related documents pertaining to the contract, including authorizing administration to make payments in accordance with the contract.
I'll move.
Was that Joanna?
Yeah.
Second.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Was that Dan?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Now we need a motion for the Board of Education to authorize administration to enter into an agreement with a third-party vendor to be determined with approval of board council and provided in advance to board members to provide, I'm sorry, I lost my place, to provide a COVID-19 vaccination program to District 99 employees at a total cost of less than $50,000.
So moved.
Second.
Terry and Joanna.
Thank you. Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Deanne and Joanna.
Thank you. Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the resolution authorizing commencement of vaping litigation and the attorney-client fee contract.
So moved.
Second.
I think there was Terry and then Joanna. I
Yeah.
think.
Could have been.
Thank you. Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the 2021 summer school recommendations as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Dan and Joanne?
Thank you. Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the 2021 summer school and summer calendar as presented.
So moved.
Terry and Joanna?
Thank you. Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. And finally, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the administration to move forward with the preparation and release of bids for the proposed build-out of the district's T99 facility located at 4232 Vinard Road in Downers Grove.
So
So
moved.
move.
Terry and Joanna.
Okay, thank you. Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. We'll move now on to the second reception of visitors, which is intended for audience members to address the board on any topic pertaining to Community High School District 99. Dr. Thiele, is there anybody in the room with comments?
Nobody in the room, but we've received 4 comments online.
Okay.
3 of them encouraging the administration and board to try to find ways to return students back to school for full days. And 1 comment inquiring as to whether or not District 99 will be rebating taxes. So that's all of the comments that came in.
Okay. And those will all be shared with the board members, correct?
Yep, they will be shared with the board members in full and become part of the official board minutes.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, we'll move on to communications and announcements. Do we have a report on the Legislative Education Network of DuPage, Dan? Or Hank?
So there's been several emails that have been sent out. I'm not sure if everybody is on their legislative briefs emails. If you're not, I encourage you to sign up. I don't have a summary of all the emails, so if anybody wants me to forward them to you, I can, but I don't have anything other than what's in their published.
We did have a meeting last Friday, which was just introducing us to all of the legislators that are now serving. Some are returning, some are new, but it was really just like a virtual meet and greet of local legislators.
Thank you. Report on School Association for Special Education in DuPage County, or SASE, Joanna?
I'm gone. Whoa, what happened?
You're still here. We see you.
You see me? Okay. SASID staff are distributed across 14 member districts for an opportunity and location to receive the vaccine. Administration center staff, that would be Southeast school staff, transition program, long-term subs and contractors, and they will be participating with Lyle District 202. And also Sunrise Transportation would like a 1-year extension, and they're seeking feedback from the member districts. And that's kind of it.
Mark provided feedback on the contract to SASID, and we do have 2 SASID staff members that are in our counts for our vaccinations.
Okay. Let me see. I can't get back on. Yeah.
Terry, do you have a report on the District 99 Education Foundation?
Yes, I do. The month of February is going to be Pizza Wars, and we are encouraging everyone to go to our website and to get more info on Pizza Wars, and that's at pizzawars.org. And you can reach that through our website, which is d99ef.org. And what we're encouraging is that you purchase pizzas from our 2021 group of pizza vendors, and there'll be more information, maybe a few coupons, that sort of thing, through our website. And we wish that it was in person, but because of everything, we just can't do that. And we can't wait to host the Pizza Wars in 2022 in the South High Learning Commons. So it will be a wonderful event to show off our fabulous schools. And it's just the way it is right now. But we do encourage you to donate to the foundation also, because this is our major fundraiser of the year. So if you would like to support us, you can go to the d99ef.org and donate to the foundation. So
here, I was thinking about this because I know the Village of Downers Grove in a Facebook feed, they are asking residents to highlight some of the restaurants they go to in Downers Grove and surrounding area. Do we have anybody? Do we have a list of our participants in Pizza Wars prior to 2021 anywhere on the website? I was thinking about that. I'd like to start.
Well, I would
encouraging and going to people who have supported us all these years.
Right. Yeah. Most of the vendors that we've had in 2021 are 2020, because we did have it in 2020. Right. Those have been with us for quite a while. So, but there are a few that have come and gone. There are several pizza parlors that are no longer, even before now. So I would just say, look at those that we did in 2020 and try to support them as much as we can.
Nancy, your point is that, it'd be nice if those were listed out somewhere, right? So, and,
well, it is. It's on our website.
Oh, it is. All right, great.
Yeah.
I mean, they've supported us all these years. We should. It's kind of late in the game now, but I've been trying to remember who I've seen there year after year, and I'm not sure I could identify everybody.
Right, and that's why we're doing it the whole month of February, is kind of a reminder to visit those pizza parlors because they've given so
Oh, yeah.
much because they don't charge us for that pizza. Every pizza that they brought to us has been a donation. So, that adds up. And especially right now, we need to support them as much as we can.
Yeah.
So it would be fabulous if you could, order your pizza from them. And then you can also turn around and donate to the foundation. Because we do a lot of wonderful things, especially the teacher grants and, just special things that we do for our students. It's just.
And the foundation is still collecting money to support families in need, correct?
Yes, we can, there's certain funds that you can send your monies to.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been buying gift cards that both principals at North and South get gift cards to help residents, students that are in need, because we don't want them to go hungry.
Thank you, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, anything on Illinois Association of School Boards?
Dupage Division meeting, March 20th, which is a Saturday, 10 a.m. So if you haven't registered, do so. It's the easiest one to attend that we've had, probably, right?
Yeah. And what is it going to be, Mike? Is it just a speaker or?
Yeah, I think they're going to have a presenter, but I don't recall seeing an agenda yet for it. It was kind of a save the date sort of announcement.
Oh, okay.
It looks like Hank maybe is trying to
find it to see if they did tell us or if they just gave us a save the date.
All I saw was a save the date.
I think it's probably good. I think it's going to be, they're looking at making a panel presentation. So I don't think it's all locked in yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Legislative forum.
Yeah. They've invited, I'm on the planning committee. They invited all of they've invited most, if not all, of the local legislators. So it's still coming together.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, upcoming board meetings, February 1st, 2021 will be a workshop meeting at 6:30 p.m. and February 22nd, it will be a regular business meeting also at 6:30 p.m. Hopefully they will be in the administrative service building. We shall see.
The administration is recommending that we cancel next week's workshop. We've covered all of the items that we would need to discuss in that. We don't have any agenda items for next week. We've had 3 straight weeks of board meetings and we've covered a lot in those 3 weeks. So we would recommend canceling the February 1st workshop.
Anybody have an objection to that?
I don't know. I live for seeing all you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that as a vote to cancel, Mike.
Mike, you could carry on.
I hope that wasn't a serious question.
Knowing that we might, depending on what happens with metrics, need to call a special board meeting at some point in the future anyway, but I think that February 1st one we can cancel.
Okay, and we will see everybody at the February 22nd meeting.
Yeah, and if something comes up, we know that you'll call us and,
Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion to go into closed session. We will not be taking any action when we come out of closed session, I believe.
So moved. Oh.
We need a motion, Terry, for the to go into closed session for the collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedule for one or more classes of employees. And we will be discussing the board's interest and parameters to be considered in extending the Support Staffs Association SSA contract for 1 year. Terry, did you move to go into closed?
Yes.
Second is?
Sherelle.
Sherelle seconds it.
Was it Sherelle, did you say? Second?
Yes.
Thank you. Terry Pavicic.
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller.
Aye.
Dan Nicholas.
Aye.
Rick Cavanato.
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.